Welcome. My name is Brenda Lanoff of BrendaLanoff.com. So today I'm excited. I'm going to be interviewing my friend Heather Wilks. And before we bring her on, I want to give you some brief bio as to Heather. So Heather is a professional dowser, an integrative counselor and author. She lives in Melbourne, Australia. Heather worked as a copywriter in advertising for many years. She and her art director husband ran a creative consultancy with many corporate Australian companies as clients. Heather developed a strong interest in alternative healing modalities. She learned to Dowse in 2001, trained in Reiki and thought field therapy, later trained in Tapas Acupressure Therapy, or TAT, Hypnosis, trauma therapy, emotional freedom technique, and continues to use meridian tapping, now using the FasterEFT style with its NLP component. Heather has authored 2 dowsing books and works via Zoom on her one-to-one with clients. Since 2020, Heather, with her fellow Australian Frances Peterson, Heather has developed and appeared on weekly Facebook Zoom group calls to help the planet. She has developed a close association with the Tucson Dowsers in Arizona, with weekly appearances in their Weather Dowsing group. Very interesting. So welcome, Heather. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm delighted you invited me. Thank you. We've been in touch for some years now, which is lovely.
We have. It has been several years. And to be honest, I don't remember how that all happened, but it was synchronicity. And it just, that's what happens. You just make that connection. And a lot of times you don't even remember what initially prompted it. But here we are today. And I'm happy to have you on, Heather. You're very gifted. You've got so much experience behind you. And we have to highlight and bring forth these gifted practitioners to help save the planet. So, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
So, as an integrative counselor, what are the main modalities you work with for Zoom clients?
I use pendulum dowsing, FasterEFT, meridian tapping. I help people with Court of Atonement or Faster Court of Atonement, which is more or less interchangeable. And I use some other modalities like bilateral stimulation to balance the left and right brain hemispheres. And it's a lot of fun. Even though I am quite well known for the dowsing, I like to start with the tapping because sometimes people are a bit shy about telling me what the real problems are. But with the meridian tapping, it calms their whole system. They feel lighter and then they feel more open about sharing what's going on. And that's when I can move in with the dowsing, which is, really good. And I use this as a reference. This is Inner Segal's. I believe you have this book too, yeah. Inner Segal's The Secret Language of Your Body. And Brenda, I always tell people that I'm using it because otherwise they think I'm really psychic. And I would like to be that psychic, but she's done all the hard work first with her insights into it, the emotions affecting the body. So I use those with tapping and with dowsing.
Well, I have to say, Heather, I think you are very intuitive and you probably are psychic, maybe whether you don't like to use that word or not, but I would digress on that. I believe that you are. Or else we would be attracted to this work. Now, when you mentioned EFT, I think a lot of people who they've been in any type of energy work have heard of EFT. We're going back, I don't know, 25 years or so. And I'm sure if you've been in energy work at all, you would have heard of EFT. It's quite recognizable. And so it's a great combination to be using with, as an example, anything that you're doing, the dowsing, court of atonement, whatever that is. So it's great to really bring in together these different modalities. And at the end of the day, it's all about energy.
Exactly. And I remember Gary Craig, who was the EFT master, always saying, try it on everything. And I guess I've adopted that for tapping and for dowsing. Literally try it on everything.
You do. Like you really, what I've noticed about you, Heather, is that when I hear you on these calls, which we'll get to, because Heather's on some group calls, is that I love your wording. You have such a gift as to language, so that is absolutely crucial and beneficial. So people make that connection. Now you work with people obviously living outside of Australia, or I would imagine that isn't this would be something that you can do worldwide.
It is. And that's the wonderful part about it. And I must say, it's a lot easier, Brenda, with Canada and the US. Sometimes with Europe, the times get a little bit tricky, and I'm always checking on, because you've got Monday there now, and I'm Tuesday here. And it goes on. And sometimes with the Friday call we have in Australia, which is Thursday night in America, I've begun to think I'm doing it Thursday night. It becomes so familiar to say Thursday night. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank goodness that we can have recordings of our Zoom calls, so nobody really gets left behind if they don't not able to make it. Like I haven't been able to make it at times because it gets to be kind of late at my end. But absolutely having the replay, it just makes it really easy.
It does.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to talk about you created 2 dowsing books, and if people have never dowsed before, I'm going to highly suggest Heather has made it so easy and really made it like comfortable to ask questions and not feel like you're behind or whatever. So tell me about this. The 2 books that you've created. How did that first one come about, Dowsing Heals?
That came about because I used to have classes here in Melbourne pre-COVID to teach dowsing, and I had a manual which kept growing. And in the end, I thought there's so much good information and foundational for people. So I decided to develop it into a book, and it starts for beginners, and then it introduced advanced dowsing, which I learned from Raymond Grace. So it covers both sides of it. And the second book is built on that, but it doesn't do the intro part because that's covered in the first book, and it goes straight into changing energy for healing. And they're both called Dowsing Heals, and the second one's Dowsing Heals too. So it's quite straightforward.
Wow, that dowsing, I once again, and you know what I've decided to do, Heather? I'm just saying, I'm going to keep your Dowsing Heals 2 for sure as a tab ongoing, so that when I get as a tool, you know how you can put it on top as a tab, because you've got some really good info in there. And I think it's going to be fun to have you do some dowsing with in shortly and just show us how that works.
Sure.
So now you had mentioned Raymond Grace. So can you tell me more about who is Raymond Grace?
Raymond Grace is an American dowser, but he's internationally known, and he's really highly regarded. He's extraordinary because he changed, it used to be just yes, no dowsing. Well, he really brought in from all his background how to change energy. And it's just wonderful. And I came to know him through email because I was the vice president of the Dowsing Society of Victoria, where I am. And I used to be in contact with him to buy his products to sell in the DSV shop. They're now available online, of course. And anyway, so I come to know him. And if I had a curly question, I would contact him and say, how do I go about this? And he was always really helpful. He was helpful with the weather and other things. And then in 2009, he released Blueprint for Freedom, which was a series of videos at the time, and it's now still freely available via YouTube. And you just key in Raymond Grace Blueprint for Freedom. He developed it for some human trafficking that was going on in the time in Southeast Asia. Anyway, I just was so enthralled, and I sat and transcribed it that night. It was just so wonderful. I had no idea, it was a Saturday night even, I had no idea it would do so much that was so different. It really lit a flame in me, and you know, I was really dowsing well before, but that changed so much. It was great.
You have such a passion for dowsing, and I appreciate that. And you know, we can all be dowsing and learn to dowse. In fact, it's very, very ancient. I myself have dowsed every day for many years, and sometimes I lose my pendulums because they decide they're going to leave. What happened with you? You have your pendulum, and then all of a sudden, it totally disappears.
Fortunately, I have a backup because I'm a bit addicted to them.
I know I'm so addicted to. It's almost like having a friend, and if it's and you know you want access to it no matter what. So um, let's talk about your second book, or is that The Dowsing Heals 2? That's just been released. You've got
Yes,
some dowsing success stories and many different dowsing healing protocols in that one. So
yes.
have you take us through to your new book so that people maybe can follow along later? What does your new book
The
cover?
new It covers healing, and also, and it was fairly adventurous to write. I have to say, I had to push myself because, you know, people may not all agree that you can change your health so readily with dowsing. But using the insights from Ina Segal's book, I Dowse to take out in the no direction the non beneficial energies she mentions related to a problem in the body. And then I dowse in the yes directions to bring in what we'd like instead. And that is just so amazing. So, if you'd like, I could take you through one now from the second book, Rewiring the Brain, or
That's
Brain Rewiring.
perfect because just have to say, I think as a worldwide, we're quite scattered. Our nervous system is erratic, so
Yes,
much coming at us. So, rewiring the brain to me sounds like a perfect example of dowsing. So, yes, please, I'm going to sit here and just enjoy your dowsing.
okay. So, if you'd like, others watching later would like to pick up a pendulum and follow along, just start your pendulum in the no direction to take up what we'd like to alter. So, in Raymond Grace style, scrambling the frequency of the negative effects of chronic stress on my body, mind, and spirit. And then just allow the pendulum to come to a stop of its own accord. Now, by this stage, you're only starting it off, you're not actually doing it. It's working of its own volition. And it works for as long as necessary. Usually not that long, but it's really interesting to see. And then it'll stop and we'll go on. And I've actually got a little bit more to continue in the no direction. So, releasing incoherent emotional and energetic patterns related to stress. And then scrambling the frequency of the fears about participating in life, great need for control, and need to know things, all the things needing attention and all the ways wanting approval. Fears about being unworthy or deserving, and these apply to so many of us, of course. Any deep-seated grief or guilt. The belief that life has to be a struggle to survive. Feelings of weakness, limitation, and that belief that creeps in at times that there isn't enough. Any stuckness in the world of lack, and everything contributing to the diagnosis of what may have just come up for the person. And then I'm just going to stop. And my pendulum's going a bit out of picture here, but we know what I'm doing. In your yes direction for those following along, transforming the energy to the most beneficial for recovery and restoration to optimal health, emotional and physical strength, and peace of mind. Rewiring my neural pathways to reduce overactivities in the amygdala. Bringing overactive limbic system into balance to eliminate chronic stress. Activating my vagus nerve to increase vagal tone for renewed coherence throughout my mind, body, and energy field to promote relaxation and improved overall well-being. Healing the non-beneficial emotions underpinning my issues with health. Magically healing and regenerating my body and immune system to maximum health, vibrancy, and well-being. Bringing in anything else known or unknown to develop maximum strength, health, vitality, clarity, confidence, and courageousness. This or something better is safe and appropriate across all times and dimensions and reality, magnifying this dowsing with the help of nature spirits, spiritual dowsers, and the best dowsing knowledge of all time. Thank you.
Thank you. My head is just tingling.
Okay. It's quite involved, but I thought it was appropriate for, as you say, this time with all the chaos.
One thing I wanted to mention about Raymond Grace, I've followed him for several years now, is he's so honest and is simplistic and has integrity. And integrity, authenticity is the highest frequency and vibration we can have. So if we really are living authentic, and we all have our shadow parts, we know that, but we are working to be authentic, that's what we're going to attract. And I believe that as on a physical level, emotional, spiritual. So, and you could tell people want truth right now. We're tired of the manipulation. We're tired of the control. So we want that honesty and again, in integrity. So what I love about what you're doing is, it's like you're asking and within your book, the dowsing questions is like bringing in that will to live. Sometimes we just don't have a will to live, and maybe it's not ours. Maybe we've absorbed somebody else's no will to live. So really, really beneficial, strong statements that we can bring in to do the clearing like what you did, and to bring in all the beneficial. So thank you for that. And for people that are, dealing with some physical issues, maybe you've got pathogens, which most of us do have some pathogens, if I may say, and, some, skin issues. I know for example, and I will say, so I had basal cell carcinoma, which is a skin cancer, with a combination of dowsing and using my own remedies, natural. I can say I'm clear, and that's very powerful for me to even to claim that. So I know that the dowsing is extremely powerful, and it can be used in conjunction with pharmaceutical, with non-pharmaceutical. It doesn't take away from that. It's a real complement. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that because you do have a spot there on cancer and then skin cancer at the nose. And we had talked about that before, Heather, about the basal cell carcinoma, and then here you got it now in your book. for the nose. And I have noticed that there's a number of people like on Facebook and they're going, oh, I've got some basal cell, spots. And we're getting so many toxins that are coming in, so much stress from outside forces that maybe we don't even realize that are in our system. So it affects us. And
It
I just
does.
love how the dowsing, it's simple, but extremely effective.
I recommend people to keep a notebook, like like an
Yes.
A5 spiral notebook, to write down everything that we're working on. I use it for tapping, for dowsing, and also court of atonement work. I write my date, who I'm working on, what it's about, and what steps I've taken. And then I always get intuitive prompts as I'm doing it anyway, add those in. And then I've got something to go back and think, well, yes, that worked so well. I give it a tick and write notes about what the result was. And you end up having a whole lot of reference to return to for those times when you're not confident. And you think, oh, I did that. Yes, of course I can do this. It's Raymond Grace who taught me to be confident about dowsing, And because we had such a good relationship over the email through the Dowsing Society, he kindly co-wrote the foreword of my first book. And the
Yes.
other person who co-wrote was Robert Smith from FasterEFT, the founder of it. Because without Raymond Grace, I wouldn't have been doing it anyway. But without Robert Smith's FasterEFT, I was always concerned that I wouldn't be able to get everyone on the same page in a group. There was often someone who just literally couldn't move the pendulum. Once I introduced the FasterEFT and the tapping, and I used to take notes of and most people said the same thing, what if I'm not good enough? What if everyone else is better than me, whatever? And we'd all tap on that in a group. And then everyone was calm, lighter, and they could pick up a pendulum and it would work. And I was thrilled to get them both to contribute to the first book. And they've been a big influence on my life, which is fabulous. So, yes, it's great. And because of those books that I've kept, I've got a stack of them. That's what led to these books being produced. I couldn't have possibly remembered. And I know everyone thinks that, oh, I will remember, but you don't. Life's so busy. And I go back through and find something that worked. It might be a couple of years ago, like the nose with the cancer. And I think, oh, yes, I'll put that in. And that's how it happened for me. But please, I urge you, if you haven't started writing down little note scraps of paper, they work well for a while, but then you can't find the one you're looking for. So keep it all together in a book. It's really worthwhile.
Good suggestion. I like your suggestion of dowsing in confidence. I wonder if we could maybe do something similar today, Heather. Would that be more from your first book or your second book, or does it matter?
No, either book has positives, but I thought from the first book I could dowse for
Yes.
empowerment.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so pick up your pendulum and starting in your no direction, and it can be different in different countries. That's why I say your no direction. And we're going Raymond Gray style, going to the place inside that knows why I have a problem. Scrambling the frequency of the hidden agendas, the limiting beliefs, and anything else contributing to it. Eliminating, releasing, and letting the problem and all of its roots go now. Dissolving it, deleting it, uninstalling it, wiping it out now. Magnifying the benefits of this dowsing with the help of spiritual dowsers and the abilities of the best dowsers on the planet. And then let your pendulum just come to a stop. Okay. Now, in your yes direction, just to kickstart it and let it take over. Transforming the energy to empowerment, allowing me to live a dream life. Bringing in the spirits of love and gratitude, peace, confidence, courageousness, acceptance, hope, joy, freedom, trust, and prosperity. And of course, add in everything else that calls to you. This or something better as safe and appropriate across all time, dimension, space, and reality. Thank you.
A bit of a yawn at my end. Oh, I
That's
could
a good
feel
sign.
that. It's a good sign. Yes, it's definitely a good sign. Just energy moving through. Um, this was really good. And I'm thinking this would be a great one to do every morning when we wake up, because before we get on our phone and check, oh, what's happening out in the world, is because it pulls us in, it drags us down. We're already getting so much outside influence that are affecting our nervous system. Like, to build up our confidence, I feel like you're putting on a shield of armor, and just downloading this shield of armor so that you can handle more and be in more balance for what's coming in unexpectedly.
Yes, indeed. And the more we dowse for ourselves, the more confidence we have about doing it for others too. And,
Yes.
it's just, it feels so empowering all the time to know that you've got that at the end of your fingertips.
It
And I
is.
really like Court of Atonement too, because Amy Jo
Yes.
Ellis is an American who's really fascinating. She channels this work, and I dowse with. She is a dowser, but I dowse with it because I always have a pendulum somewhere nearby. And when I first heard her introduce it, I was dowsing with it. You don't have to; you can just do it. But I love the way she describes it. Court of Atonement is a sacred surrender to let divine intelligence resolve what our minds cannot. And that is extremely powerful. There can be some really curly situations going on, and we can try as hard as we like to work it out. But that's crazy, because there's a higher power that knows more than we do. So turn it over to the higher power. So I've always got the Court of Atonement sheets handy. If I go out on public transport, I have them printed out, just a couple of pages in my bag. And I've doused on public transport, so that's not a problem. And I'll just do what I like. I mean, if I see a
Mm-hmm.
situation that needs help, and we can help so many others, we don't have to declare it. I really believe that we just do it because it's like prayer. We're doing it for the highest
Yeah.
good.
It's fascinating. We have been, I sense, so dumbed down, and we've been told many different ways we're not very powerful. And then when you start doing things like the dowsing, EFT, Court of Atonement, Reiki, there's just so much out there. It's all creator's energy. You realize, oh, maybe you are more powerful than what you've been told that you are. And there's this part of us, well, I don't want to be boasting, but at the same time, I don't want to diminish who I am. So I think we
Exactly.
have to be very strong to being, it's safe to be powerful. It's safe to being seen and heard and to stand up. It's safe to being authentic.
Exactly. And we're not doing the work. We're doing it from a higher power
Exactly.
anyway. So it's not a matter of showing off and saying, I did this. It's
Right.
having the wisdom to ask the question and be prepared to be assisted with getting the answer. And that's what's so exciting. You
It
know,
is. And now, before you got involved in this, like, you were in the corporate world, and I like to hear more about that, Heather, because we don't want to diminish all of those years that then led you to getting into the energy work. So, if you don't mind, I'm kind of curious. Like, tell us about what your husband and you were working together and what that was when you were
mm,
having your business.
yes, well, he was is an art director, and I'm the writer. He designed the books. Um, and he's not a dowser. Anyway,
No, no.
Um, but when we were working in the corporate area, it was very different. But
Mhm.
I really had been interested in alternative healing for a long time and just looked on for ages. And when I was getting a bit old, we were getting a bit older, we found that some of the product managers coming out of university thought we were ancient. And it was just
Mm.
one of those things. I mean, we made a decision a bit too early. We could have, with the advent of the internet, stayed doing both. but we rather stepped aside and followed our heart. And his was to write a film for children, and mine was
Wow.
to study and get right into the alternative healing. And it was really great. But, in those days, if you'd said I'd be doing this today, Brenda, there's no way I would have believed it. It
I
was
know
two different worlds.
it
Totally.
is, but isn't it nice that you can bring this into I think, introduce it to the business world? Um, why not? I think the business world is starting to open up more to this. And I know for my background in corporate, I was thinking, oh, I just want to go in and do a show and tell or a lunch and learn and come in and do some muscle testing, but I could never get my foot in the door. Just it wasn't the right timing. So maybe, Heather, like when people learn more about dowsing, they can integrate it with their existing profession. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and teach people. Maybe they work in a dental office. And so there's a lot of possibilities of using the dowsing and incorporating it, collaborating with your existing profession. It's not one or the other.
No, I must say I was really surprised. I ran a large group at the local town hall pre-COVID, and one of the people who came to learn dowsing was a doctor. Now, I was absolutely amazed because I had never expected a doctor to appear, and another one in the medical field. She was a very senior nurse, and they embraced it as well as everyone else. There was no judgment. They were really curious, which was amazing. So there you
That
go.
is interesting. I mean, who knows if a person believes in past lives, maybe in a past life, who knows? Maybe that's, they're carrying in skills that they didn't know what's in their system.
But to be
So, if you can
curious is
quantum
good. I
jump,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, to explore new
yeah,
things, which is great.
it is. I think we carry so much we don't realize it's in our system. And
Sure.
so for people that are interested and guided to this, it could be this is igniting memory of what you already know. So when Heather goes through the dowsing and through all of her information, you may already know this, but you need to be prompted. And by doing the dowsing with Heather, or I'm just going to say with the books that you have, that then prompts some memory that's already in your system from maybe pre-birth. I know for the work for Dr. Bradley Nelson that we're both aware of, you can carry in memories into the womb. So it's all really possible, and really so much is possible. We just have to think outside of the box, what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And I think that's what this dowsing does. Now, dowsing, it goes back. What is the history? Thousands of years, isn't it? Like, look how
It is.
far back that this goes.
I would love to know the first person who thought of using a pendulum or anything that you check with. It started, of course, with water divining when people on the land were looking for water. And that was
Yes.
quite acceptable. I mean, that for thousands of years. But I've never been able to find out more about how someone made the leap from water divining with rods or sticks, as they often did, to picking up something in their hand. Now, it doesn't have to be a fancy pendulum. When I was teaching classes, for those who didn't have a pendulum, I used to take dog whistles on a short piece of string. Now, the local discount place wondered how many dogs I had. But the thing was, it was such an effective way because it taught people that you don't need a pendulum. There is no power in the pendulum.
Yes.
And it's just to tune in to divine guidance. So, and I often gave those little dog whistles away. I just put them on a piece of short strings because you don't want a long length because that just takes too long. And it's just was fascinating how things evolved. But I'd like to know the first person and how they decided you could ask yes, no questions that didn't involve looking for water.
That is
fascinating.
a good question. I just feel it goes back so, it's like the body. Oh, this is what I'm getting. It's like looking for an understream body of water, a ley line. So maybe they're walking wherever and their body is going naturally forward because this is where the channel of, of water is. This is just what
Possibly.
came to me. And so you just naturally do the forward yes, and something gets you triggered as to, oh, maybe take the sticks. I know for what years ago, we were living close to this town, and we had an acreage living close to this town veterinarian. And she had her water well. She had somebody come out and, do the dowsing rods. And I know from my own industry that I worked in, which is the oil and gas industry, one of the largest developments within our province was through dowsing rods. It'd be like drill, So it is interesting. I'd love to find out about that too. It's like, what was that, or when that information, or what they sense in history was that first uncovered?
Someone told me they went to the Louvre and there were pieces of
Ah,
hieroglyphics, really ancient, showing people with pendulums. And they
okay.
also had pendulums in the Louvre. Now, when I was at the Louvre, I hadn't even heard about dowsing, so I haven't been back to see them myself. But yes, I believe that. And it's
Oh,
interesting, we had a situation that was revealed about the First World War when they sent soldiers to Gallipoli, and someone foolishly put the water into kerosene tins for the horses, which of course they couldn't drink. But one of these young soldiers was a dowser from rural areas, a rural area of Victoria.
yeah.
And being from the land, he knew how to dowse. So he dowsed at Gallipoli and found water, and that saved the horses, which was such a good story.
I love it. And I love how, and for people that don't know, weather manipulation, and we've all are getting kind of, you can get erratic weather going on. I think it feels like more than ever, but maybe not. But everybody's got a weather story. Could be usually cold, like where I'm at right now in Canada. And here I am, and it's actually very nice out, which is very strange, but that's just my part of Canada, which is a massive country. So, and there could be another part that's usually hot and they're cool, so you don't know. I don't know how much is really manipulated or not, but regardless, if there's a storm coming in, and I know Raymond Grace talks about, what is it, putting forget what the terminology is,
A
but
double-edged sword.
double-edged sword. Isn't that
Axe. Yeah,
cool?
yeah.
An axe.
But I have to say that because I don't have a double-edged axe being in the city, but I have learned from someone on his Facebook group that you could use a knife. So I use
Yeah,
knives. And I did it
really.
last night because I heard of a cyclone coming into the north of Western
Oh,
Australia. And I just checked before we came on, and it was downgraded. So, I mean,
wow.
and I did go out and speak to the nature spirits too. And I said, could you talk to your cousins in northern Western Australia and just get them to tone this cyclone down, have it blow out to sea? I'm not sure if it blew out to sea, but it was definitely diminished. And Raymond Grace was the one who taught me about nature spirits. I asked him on behalf of the Dowsing Society some years ago when we had a very severe drought, and he said the nature spirits had left our region and he'd invited them back in. He said he didn't know why they'd gone, but they had. And
Mhm.
he then said to me, I should talk to the nature spirits. Well, I was particularly shy about that because I'd never come across them before, and I'm from the city. And I whispered. So I tell people this so that you might feel inclined, but whispering really works well. Sorry, I just need a little
Oh,
sip of water.
really? That's interesting.
So now we're beyond whispering. I treat the nature spirits as friends, good friends. I
Hmm.
say good morning to them. It's a great day. Or when the wind kicks up, could you lower it? Could you tone it down? But I always give them a reason. And I've learned that more or less from my involvement with the Tucson Dowsers, with their weather call each week. You know, someone will say, well, perhaps you should explain why you want it turned down. And so I do. I say, for whatever reason, you know, it's usually to save the people, the properties, the land, the animals,
Mhm.
you know, creatures. And it's just, I think, helpful that they know that there's a good reason. It's just not Heather Wilks having an inkling that she'd like things differently, that there's a real reason. And, you know, when the trees whip up here, it can feel very dangerous. And sometimes it even takes a bit of yelling through the window. We're well past whispering.
Well, I have to say, when you say nature spirits, maybe quickly for people here, okay, tell us about the spirits. And because I know that's something I should be doing more often and I haven't been. But what would be your average day when you get up in the morning? Like, do you talk to the spirits besides, like, with the weather? Like, do you have
Not
a
because I want some help, but I do say good morning to them. I generally,
really?
yeah, and when it's a beautiful day, as today is, I'll say thank you. It's a lovely day, and whatever. And if the temperature tomorrow is going to be quite high, so I'll probably be asking for it to be a bit cooler and less humidity if possible, for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason the day brings. But yes, but usually I start the day by bringing in the oh, you know, you do these things automatically. I do it for my husband and me. um, the polarity and body magnetism
Oh,
into balance with the earth, local positive energy, creative forces, the elements, and the universe.
lovely.
And I
So,
do it for
Heather, if
him.
somebody was to get in touch with you and then just, I'm sensing, go through a session and go through the steps and yeah, help, where you assist them to, do their own dowsing. I really think that is going to help build up a person's confidence. And,
Mm.
if people learned how to muscle test, for example, you could ask, oh, how much did it help? Speaking to the cousins of the spirits as to bringing down that level of force of whatever. And you could maybe even muscle test, oh, maybe it's helped 55% or whatever. Get that confidence about, gee, this really does work. But I think it would be really beneficial if people can just get a bit of a kickstart and how they would work with it, knowing that this is very, very ancient. I sense very suppressed information, all but mainstream. They might think you're crazy. But to me, it's like a form of prayer as well. I mean, we're speaking to the creator, to God who you call to. So it all works together. It's simply energy. We're energy. Everything is of energy.
Exactly, that's true. Well, if people would like to get in touch with me, the best way is by email, heather@dowsingheals.com. And
Perfect.
if they're interested in buying my books, that's available. They're available as an instant download from my website, dowsingheals.com. Outside of Australia, it's an instant download. Within Australia, I sell the printed books. But Brenda, I found that it's just too hard. International postage is outrageously high,
It
and it
is.
takes so long. Whereas if someone downloads the books, they get it straight away.
Yeah.
They can choose to, from the first book, there's a 25 short checklist of things they might print those out, or the other longer protocols in the book. From my new book, they could print out selected protocols that suit them, or they can print either book out. And there are instructions or suggestions on my Dowsing Heals website for the best ways to do that, the most economical ways, and presenting it so that it looks and appeals to people.
You certainly put a lot of work into these, Heather, that I don't know if I'd have the patience. You certainly do. And it
But I'm lucky
shows
to
that.
be a writer, really.
Well,
That
I was
certainly
going to
helps.
say you have that gift of being a writer, and it's transformed also into this. So it's a perfect combination. Not everybody has the patience, or that's not their strength, or one of their strengths. So no, that's awesome. I appreciate you coming on, and so great. I will have this on my YouTube, and if anyone's interested into a little energy scan, this is what I do. I'll have the link for you to also schedule complimentary. So once again, thank you, Heather. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we end the call? Anything at all?
Only about the Thursday night, Friday call with Frances
Yes.
Peterson. If anyone would like the actual link, you can email me, heather@dowsingheals.com, or look at my Facebook page, which is simply Heather Wilks. It's not a group, it's just my name. And we have the details. Frances and I work out a topic every week on our Thursday night, which is Wednesday night in America and Canada. Then it appears on her page, on her group and my page, and we put the times in for areas of the States. It's not a good time for Europe, but people in Europe can follow along later on the replay. So just by sending an email, I will send, if you're not on Facebook, and you don't have to be on Facebook, I will send the Zoom link and the code, heather@dowsingheals.com.
Perfect. And yes, I really, you have a great group. Sat in a few of your calls and listened to replays. So highly recommend, even if you don't feel like it, by the time that you do this little get together, and you will calm you down. That's absolutely guaranteed. And any tools that we can have right now to keep our nervous system regulated and calm. And it's so nice to be able to connect with people across the globe. I love it. It's much has changed, Heather, since the last decades, I have to say, from writing a letter for 200 miles away to this, it's simply amazing. So
it is wonderful. And Frances and I have come to know a lot of people now, Canada like yourself, and America, and now we have a New Zealander, and it's just wonderful because it's quite a short session, but it's very friendly, and we usually have a chat beforehand. People bring up what they'd like to, then Frances hosts and starts the recording. I lead with Court of Atonement, then a dowsing, and then a visualization. Then Frances closes the meeting, and then those who want to stay on can stay on a bit longer and have a bit more of a chat. Often there is an interesting situation that someone's going through, and they'll ask for advice. They're dowsers, but everyone needs input when they're very close to something. And often the input, the sharing of advice is wonderful, and then they'll come back a week or two later and say, I have to tell you this worked. And I then say, did you write it down in your book?
Yes, and again, a good tip, because we can get so scattered. I know that I can. So I to write it down and have those testimonials. I know in your second book here, you've got testimonials.
I've got
and
stories.
Yeah, maybe give us one testimonial before we go today. Heather, why not? Shine. Just which is true, like let's let people know the type of things that you've seen results on. Like, why not?
Oh, you mean success stories? Well, there was a case recently of someone who had two kittens, and there were two brothers. They were only 12 months old, and one of them had cost $3,000 Australian already at the vet. It had a urinary tract infection. And so I doused following inner Sigal, because usually I find what goes on with an animal is personifying what's going on with someone in the family. And then I saw what inner insights were, so I asked a few more questions, and there were some really serious things going on in the household, and they all calmed down. The cat recovered completely.
Whoa.
And also the people in the house who were having their other problems,
Yes.
their issues were resolved.
Oh,
So it was very
awesome.
exciting. Very exciting.
That is exciting. And you're
Mm,
right. Animals, like they do pick up on us and
mm,
feel bad at times too, because you don't, but they do. They
I
absorb.
just literally asked who's pissed off in the family because of that urinary tract infection. And I got the answers.
Whoa.
Mm.
Awesome. So you can work on a lot of physical issues.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I work on a lot. Yeah.
So once again, we're going to have people, you can go to Heather at dowsinghills.com, and you can get an instant download at www.dowsinghills.com. So perfect. Well, once again, thank you, Heather. I enjoyed it, and I'll be sitting in on your um, future calls with Frances and the group. And if I don't catch it, I always listen to the replays. So thank you. That was fun. And
Thank you very much for inviting me, Brenda. It was very, very nice
yeah,
and great to connect here.
yeah. And you two have a great day. Um,
Thank you.
and we'll talk to you again.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.